Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast. I have a bunch of cool stuff lined up and a guest appearance from Smokemonster, so let's just jump right in and get started. Okay, up first, I've been talking about it for like a year and a half now, but Darksoft's MVS cart is up for pre-order. I'm not exactly sure when it'll ship, but get your pre-orders in now. Supposedly I'm having one shipped to me, so I'll be able to do a full side-by-side comparison of that and the Neo SD, which I actually liked very much. So I'm really, really looking forward to putting it through its paces. And that is something that I would consider time sensitive. So as soon as that thing arrives, I'm going straight into the office. I'm grabbing my buddy Phil, who has the Neo SD, and he lives in Brooklyn. And we're just going to go straight there, start shooting video, and really just kind of work through this thing. And hopefully play a whole bunch of Neo Geo games. So if you're interested in this, definitely pre-order now. The AES version's coming soon, I guess. No offense, they said the MVS version was coming soon a year and a half ago, so who knows what that actually means. But since this is done and working and they got through all of the major hurdles, it would be my nerd guess, just as somebody that's done manufacturing and stuff before, that's probably 3 months. Just a guess. Maybe it's 3 weeks, maybe it's 3 days, maybe it's 3 years. Just a guess. Please don't quote me on that one. But anyway, exciting stuff. Now we could all finally enjoy Neo Geo games without, taking out a second and third mortgage on our house. Next, I got to share a quick story with you guys about the original Gscartsw Switch. I actually wanted to do this first and just have some fun with it, but the Darksoft thing definitely took precedence to this. But years ago, when Super G first started mass producing the Gscartsw Switch, I had kind of helped just with the distribution side, and then I talked to a buddy of mine, a mechanical engineer, to see if we could make a really awesome metal case for it. So we went through, we did the drawings, we kind of looked at a few different things, and then I got the prototype made, and then I guess the deal was the prototype was going to be about $160. Remember that price in a moment. And then when that came in, once we mass produced it, it would be a few dollars each, because then they could make the tools for it and everything would be fine. So I put an order in for the case. The case arrives, and I have a bill for $650. Apparently the case is 3 pieces, and I only saw the PDF for one of them. I assume it's my mistake because I've used this vendor before, and there was a time where I had my hands in a million projects and stuff. So I had only looked for the cost of one of the pieces. So all 3 in the cheapest piece. So the total cost of that prototype was like $650. And we got it in, and Super G and I both really liked it, and we thought that the extra money for that case would totally justify itself, because it's pretty awesome, until we started calculating shipping. So while it would have been like $15, maybe $20 more per unit for a nice, awesome, badass metal case, it was actually going to cost like another, especially with international shipping, like almost double when it was that weight. So we just called it and said, no, forget it, it's not worth it. But it's been sitting there, and I've been wanting to use it, because after spending that much money and going through, I really just wanted it, but I wanted it powder coated, and the only places I know that do that, they charge an arm and a leg. They do like custom stuff for motorcycles. It'd probably be hundreds of dollars. And the place that used to do our prototypes for the computer company closed, so I had nowhere to go. So Ben Abrish actually contacted me, and he got this thing powder coated for me, and holy crap, take a look. I mean, when I got this thing back, I was so freaking excited. So it is the Metal Edition Gscartsw Switch. I will put up the design documents, so if anybody works at a metal shop or wants to get these made, you could do that for yourself. This one is designed only for the original 3.2. If you have the Lite or any of the other versions, you're actually going to have to redo the 3D drawings. These were done in SolidWorks. So pretty much, if you're already a mechanical engineer, this is a very small amount of work. But anybody else on the planet, it's a lot of work and a lot of money. So by chance, if any of you happen to work at a metal shop and do mechanical engineering, I'll leave all the stuff for you guys. Open source it, if you will. Do whatever you want with it. But it's absolutely awesome. I love it. Thank you so much to Ben for doing that. I am never selling this thing. I don't even care. I don't care what happens. I don't care if a new standard comes out. I'll just leave this on my mantle. Anytime anybody asks me what it is, I'm just gonna look right at their eyes and just go, "It's metal." Next, I got a chance to test the sync regeneration chip on the RetroTINK Ultimate. I think I'm saying that right. I think it's the sync regeneration chip. But basically, it's something that helps with consoles that have odd horizontal sync slices or for weird timings and stuff like that. And I took a 14-inch D-Series BVM I had, which had the same issues as some of the A-Series, like the BKM68X, or even some of the other D-Series. And as soon as I plugged it in using just one of the regular Raspberry Pi images, everything got all weird. You know, you could see the bending on the top. But the same exact software image, just using the RetroTINK Ultimate, everything's fine, including Sega Master System, which definitely would not work even with the real console on this monitor. So this is not really a new thing. I guess I wanted to let everybody know that I confirmed that the RetroTINK thing really is, the sync thing really does work as well as Mike had hoped. And if anybody had that series BVM that are having these issues, that's definitely the solution to your problem. So well done, Mike. When he gets back, hopefully I think he's traveling for work. I'm going to bug him a lot more about some other stuff I'd love to work on with him. So awesome. Keep it coming, Mike. And speaking of Raspberry Pi gaming, the RGB Pi just had a software update that added a few more features and kind of tweaked a few more things. So if you're already using an RGB Pi, it's probably worth upgrading. I mean, it's free, so why not? And I guess one of the advantages of using the USB stick separate for the ROMs is you could update the SD card and you don't really have to worry about recopying anything. It's just on the USB stick. But I'm a big fan of this. Cousin Scott is actually using this on his vertical BVM. So Tate vertical, I'm still not really sure what you're supposed to call it, but he took his 8-inch BVM, put it on its side, and he's running this through it, and it's absolutely awesome. So, I'm really happy that there's all these different solutions available for the Raspberry Pi stuff. As we learned with the interview with Dan Mons, having a much more powerful computer would probably get you better performance, but the Pi stuff does work well, and it's so easy. Even non-nerds could pull it off most of the time. A little bit of a learning curve. Hopefully my videos helped a little bit, but it's just such an easy and cool solution, and especially for like what Scott's doing. He just has double-sided tape. He's keeping the RGB Pi and the Raspberry Pi itself stuck to the side of it, going directly into the back. Just a very cool little solution that he probably wouldn't be able to fit if he had to have a full PC along next to it. So I love these things. Keep them coming, guys. It looks like that prototype for the Saturn that I talked about a while back is up on eBay for over $5,000. So I still don't know too much about it. There's a video, and there's obviously the eBay link, but I know I have a lot of friends that are super into the Saturn, so if nothing else, it's absolutely worth clicking on the link and watching the video if you're into this stuff. But, I mean, that's a lot of money to spend on something that hopefully at some point would be in a museum so we could all kind of take a look at. But either way, I love seeing glimpses into development history like this. Any kind of prototype or anything where you could see the original developers really materializing their ideas is very exciting to a geek like me, so had to at least mention it. There's another MSU-1 audio hack, this one for ActRaiser, done by Mikael, aka Darkshock. I always make sure I gotta say that right, because there's Darksoft and Darkshock. Sorry, dude. But another awesome hack. I love these things. And you could check out the link down below for more info. And there's going to be a little bit more info on this on the next Smokemonster video. So stay tuned for that. Firebrand X just posted a video showing how he's tweaking the OSSC, the open source scan converter, and it's really great. I love it both because I like peeking behind the curtain and seeing the wizard, but I also, it's like the old saying, right? Teach a man to fish, give a man a fish. I would love for the OSSC to have Firebrand X packs on it, so you could just select your console. But there are tons of little situations where you might need to do tweaks. And while most of us, especially in the retro gaming scene, are perfectly capable of going through menus and tweaking, knowing what to look for, and knowing the little tricks that have taken a long time for other people to learn just saves so much time in so much trouble. So huge thank you to Firebrand X for posting that, and I hope to see more videos from him. No pressure or nothing, but yeah, I'd definitely like to see more content like that, because it's very cool to be able to tweak your individual setup as best it can. It looks like while testing and tweaking the one-chip Super Nintendo to squeeze a little more perfection out of it, we actually stumbled across another glitch in the one-chips. So to try to make this as quick as possible, the original Super Nintendo consoles, the first handful of revisions, had 2 chips that processed video. And the video came out kind of soft, but the games ran fine. The one-chip consoles, so literally both video chips are now in one chip, are much sharper, and there's a ton of information about this on my website, a bunch of videos I did. But the one chips have some glitches on some games. Now, in my opinion, it's not nearly enough to choose the 2-chip over that one. But it's still something that you should note, and it's also good to know which are the games that have glitches, so that when you're seeing issues, you realize it's something that you can't do anything about and not just a problem with your specific console. And the latest one was found in some of the Capcom games. And it just so happened that the fix that took care of the ghosting that Voultar figured out a couple of weeks ago actually made this issue a little bit more prominent. So it didn't cause any problems, the issues there on stock one chips, but in tweaking one thing, it kind of brought out the flaws in another. So it was just kind of a neat thing. In my opinion, it's not something that would bother me, because, it's only the first top of the screen that you really see an issue. But I just thought it was pretty cool and thought it was worth mentioning, because it's kind of fun when we start to see all the little glitches and how things happen like this. But I love the attention to detail that all of us are spending on these things, and we really are just finding ways to squeeze every little bit of quality out of these consoles and stumbling upon some of the messes in between. A video was recently posted that showed how video games progressed differently in Brazil, and I'd talked about a few of these documentaries or mini documentaries before, and I really love all of these things. It's kind of fascinating to peer through different parts of the world and figure out why and what things happened. And I actually have a few friends in Korea that say they're going to help me do like a little, maybe more of like a podcast style on it. As much as I would absolutely love to just fly around the world and do a documentary series about this stuff, not only do I not have, a gazillion dollars to do that, but I'm very clearly not so great on the video editing. Do it well enough to make a decent podcast, but maybe one day if I win the lottery or something, I could hire the My Life in Gaming guys to come around the planet with me and do a whole global documentary on video games. But this one's definitely seems like a cool one to watch, and maybe I'll try to find and just put a page on the website, different ones that I recommend. There were a few about Russian video games that I loved. There's, of course, the Tetris from Russia with Love, I believe, was the title of that documentary. That one was really cool. So I'll try to find links to these things and maybe put up a page on my website within the next few weeks. But if you have any interest in this stuff at all, I would definitely check it out. Always cool to see different sides of things. It looks like the Brooklyn Arcade Crew was featured on another article online, and I'm really happy that they're getting all of this recognition. I talk about these guys all the time, and I'm really sorry if you guys are sick of hearing about it, but this time Beast did an interview with Rushdown Radio and talked about iFixMachine, which is basically Kris's store, which is like a computer fix-it store by day and an arcade gaming mecca by night. Very cool place. They have a ton of sit-down arcade machines now. The candy cabs, or the Versus cabs, I think is the proper way to say it. And it's just really awesome. So it's these guys are really not only keeping it alive, but kind of causing a resurgence of interest in all this stuff. So congrats on getting featured in another article. And like I keep saying every time I talk about this, anybody who's in the Brooklyn area on the weekends, definitely look up which one of these guys are doing their arcade tournaments, whether it's iFixMachine, Brooklyn Video Games, anything down at Next Level. Just follow all the players and basically see where everybody's at, because if you're into this stuff, I couldn't think of a better place to be right now to check it out, except maybe Japan, but I mean, come on. It looks like Dan's making some good progress on the GC plug, the external GC video solution, and he recently just posted a picture of the analog RGB SCART cable that could be used with it. So, very cool stuff. I got a chance to try the internal mod myself, along with Art, aka Syme, and I loved it. Thought it was very cool. You know, and there's a lot more stuff coming out for GC video across the board. So I love that all these new options are coming out, and I can't wait to take a look at the final version of his external dual version. Dan's also making some progress with his 3DO RGB board. He said this new design will actually just clip on to the VP chip with no soldering required, and it'll still be able to be used with the BT chips. You just would have to solder that one individually. The 3DO RGB mod I did myself a few years ago, well, many years ago now, right when I first started the website, was such a pain, and I remember that so distinctly because I didn't know what flux was then, or if I knew, I didn't really grasp how important it was. Remember, this is the very inception of RetroRGB, I think before the site was even live, but I remember doing it, and I did everything perfect, and I checked and rechecked, and I was so pissed, and I let my friend Phil borrow it, and you know, like a year later, he finally got to it, and everything was installed right. I just didn't use flux, so none of the connections, even though they were sticking, it wasn't really making the proper connection, and the signal wasn't really kind of. Reviews are starting to come in for the SNES30 Pro controller. That's the controller from 8-Bit Do. That it's basically a Super Nintendo controller, but with 2 analog sticks built in. So it should be the perfect match for something like the Nintendo Switch. And I haven't had a chance to test it myself yet, but it seems like something that's pretty neat, and if nothing else, it's cheaper than the official Switch Pro controller. So it's a great alternative, and it has that, you know, familiar SNES grip to it. I finally had time to do that comparison of an RGB modded TV versus the component inputs of that same TV. And to skip to the end, I did see a difference. The RGB input did seem a little bit clearer, but this is only one scenario, and there could be a million things affecting it. Anything from calibration to capacitors to interference on the board to anything else. So basically, what my gut feeling always was seems to still be in line, in that if you have a consumer grade TV that has component video inputs, there's really no reason to RGB mod it, unless you really love this stuff and unless you've already done it before. But just for something that's so time consuming and dangerous, don't forget, if you already have component video inputs, just use those. But that being said, I still really love RGB modded consumer grade TVs, and there's a ton out there with just RF inputs or just composite video that are actually great high quality tubes. So doing an RGB mod to those would really be an excellent way to reuse and breathe new life into old technology. So check out the video if you're interested, and I hope to do a few more of these at some point in the future. Just a quick shout out to Voultar. Wanted to say congratulations for reaching 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I don't know, let's if you're a fan of his work, definitely subscribe, and maybe we could do something fun if he hits 3,000 subscribers, like get him to mod something insane, like one of those gigantic ass old Zenith TVs, or I don't know, RGB mod a refrigerator, whatever. We'll figure some shit out, but let's try to keep it going and really pump up his channel and see what crazy crap we can convince him to do if he hits 3,000. Next, I have Smokemonster on to talk about open sourcing his ROM packs. Hey guys, I am here with Smokemonster. What's up, man?
Not much. How's it going?
Pretty good. So, as you would expect, I can't do a Smokemonster interview without pouring myself at least a little bit of absinthe here. So we'll just do one of those, and hopefully it'll change by the time it's done. Be a good demonstration for those absinthe amateurs. So this is the stupid American way of doing things. You're supposed to lathe it and drip it over ice. I'm just going to pour it over a gigantic ice cube, and you can see the color, like a dark color, and you'll see what it looks like when we're done.
Oh man, I'm jealous. You're looshing it up.
Yeah, I didn't. I've been trying to save money lately, so I saw this little mini bottle on sale, and I just had to pick it up, both because it was cheaper than buying one of the $60 real ones, and because it's an adorable little bottle of absinthe. Why not?
I've got 2 bottles that I brought back from Brazil waiting at home for me in USA. It
Oh,
used to be cheap, but now all of a sudden it's like outrageous here too. So,
yeah. Well, anytime anything catches on, it's outrageous. So I
hmm
guess we're out of luck. But we're not actually here to talk about absinthe. I want to know all about the. Well, I'll just. How about you just tell the story because I think you could do it better than I could.
yeah. So I have been officially on vacation with the EverDrive packs for a few weeks here. But what people don't know is that I've actually been working behind the scenes with Aquaman from EP, he's a coder, Frederick Mahi. And we have been, well, first of all, I was at kind of a crossroads with the packs because it's kind of blown up out of proportion. They've gotten huge. And I'm not completely comfortable sharing ROMs, I don't want to do that forever. It was kind of just a temporary thing on a forum at first, and then it became big. So I've been thinking about I was either going to stop doing the packs completely, which would be kind of a shame because it's a good archive project.
Yeah, from a historical point of view, it's really important as well. It's not
hmm
just for playing.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like the idea of just pulling the plugs on the files. So what I came up with was I had this idea for open sourcing the packs, and everybody listening's like, what are you talking about? That's not possible. But my idea was, so if you could, just like with MAME, like MAME doesn't actually distribute any files, they would never do that. They'll end up in prison or something, or,
Right.
they're playing with that. So what they distribute is the description of files. They describe the hashes, and you recreate their layouts using their hash files, essentially. So you collect the ROMs yourself, and then MAME imports them in and tells you if they're correct. And I was thinking, well, that's very complex, but the same kind of system could be done for something like the EverDrive packs, where with some scripts, I could describe the files that I have in terms of their hash. So like SHA-256 would be good enough to describe every file. I could give the file name, which I've changed a lot of them, or there's particular file names that are important for the EverDrives or for flashcards in general. And then the location of that file within a folder hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you had those three pieces of information, then all you would need is the complete list for a pack, and people could take that script and using another script, point that script towards where they store their personal ROM collection, however they acquired it, hopefully legally, maybe their own dumps or whatever. And using that build script, it would take those files, compare their hash files to see if it's the exact same as what's in the pack, and then move them around to where they should be within a folder hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of complex.
I was going to say, that sounds really complicated.
Yeah, so that was my idea of it. Unfortunately, I'm not a programmer.
Mm-hmm.
So I just put out a call for help a while ago, and Aquaman got back to me, and he's like, oh, let me work on this, and I'll get back to you with something. And he got back to me about a month later with these two incredible tools. He created the parse pack script, which is for creators, and the build pack script, which is for users, and it does exactly what I said. So the parse pack script, it doesn't just open source the packs that I create. This open sources the idea of the packs so that other people through GitHub can make their own packs, they can make recommendations, they can make changes, submissions, that kind of thing. Just like you talked about with your RetroRGB 2.0 site, how it would be more of a community-driven project. Right. And I sort of, back in our first interview, I sort of put down my dream for doing something like that for the EverDrive packs, but it just seems so out of reach without going, and getting a computer programming degree or something. So he created the parse pack script, and anybody can use the script, and what it does is you point it towards a folder, and you could use this for all sorts of things, not just ROM collections. You could use it for like documenting your own media collection or documenting the layout of your hard drives, You point the script towards a folder, it simply goes through and creates a hash file for every single file that's in it. It records the file name for that hash and the location within the folder. And then he created the build pack script, and then it outputs from the parse script an SMDB file, which is a text file with those three pieces of information, file name, the hash, and the folder location. Mm-hmm. So that creates an SMDB. So I'd create an SMDB for like the EverDrive N8, say, which is what I did. And that describes what I recommend for the EverDrive N8. It doesn't give you any ROM files. It doesn't give you anything. It just tells you these are the files that you need. if you want to create a pack as I'm describing it to you in text form. So you take your SMDB folder and you point it towards just a folder that you just dump every ROM that you have in, right? So you have 1,000 of them in there.
And it doesn't have to be in any kind of structure at all. You just dump them all in.
No structure at all. The file names don't matter. All that matters is that if their hash file matches the hash file from the pack, then the script will take it and do its thing with it. If not, it'll just ignore it.
Gotcha.
So the build pack, you give it the SMDB and you point it towards your ROMs, and it will take it and it'll take your ROMs, compare the hashes to the SMDB, sort them all, and create a pack for you. So somebody can create my pack from scratch using the SMDB file. And so that's what we're creating here. And we've released it on GitHub now. It's open source, GNU v3.0. So we can all get going on it. And I've been using it here. Aquaman, Frederick walked me through how to use the GitHub tools and all that kind of stuff. So it's up and running right now. The packs, the ROM files are no longer being shared, but that doesn't really matter anymore because the ROMs are out there. And they're going to be out there and through thousands and thousands of sites. I mean, they're on archive.org and all of those kind of places.
Yeah, there's a number of them that you can get, like the no intro or the good set packs, as well as individual. Now, would this script be compatible with any of those packs?
This script will just it'll even work on ROMs that you dump yourself. So if you dump, because a no intro collection, for example, if you were to take the chip out of DuckTales or something, right? Mm-hmm. Take the actual EEPROM out of it and dump that to your computer. If you've done it correctly, it'll be in a bit perfect match to what no intro did. So this pack it's independent of any particular set. It's because your CRC or your SHA-256 from your dumped ROM is going to be the exact same as the no intro ROM, which might be the one that I'm using in my pack. I sort of switch it up because the other thing is, so if you were to look at these collections, you would say that the good group is focusing on having everything, and that's really cool as an archive project. They want to have every copy of every ROM, good or bad dump, it doesn't matter. Every single hack, everything in existence is what good's after. Mm-hmm. Not great if you're using an EverDrive because 90% of those probably don't even work on it, right? For Raiser and other. No intro, they want bit perfect, exact ROM dumps of every official ROM for a system. And you could say the EverDrive packs project is neither one. It's not looking at everything and it's not looking at bit perfect. What we're looking at is real hardware perfect. So what I want to do is document, these an example would be an unlicensed Nintendo ROM. You could dump it off of your actual cart, put it on your computer, and you can't actually play that ROM because that ROM requires specific information or a specific layout that custom PCB was on. So those are unplayable. It's a great one-to-one copy, but you can't do anything with it. So what I've documented is which fix you need to play that every single ROM, because we know that these have been really thoroughly tested now, and it's at the point where pretty much everything that's in the pack, except for maybe a few hacks here and there, are going to work on real hardware. So I think there's a place for the EverDrive Packs project out in this world of archive projects. And so that's what I'm focusing more on research at this point, researching what are the flash cart ready or PCB burnable, the best ROMs that are available.
That's pretty awesome. Now that you've really explained it, because I've read your emails and I thought I got it, but I didn't get it until you just took the time to explain it. And it makes sense now because, obviously anytime you have any kind of longevity in your idea, that's always good because, now it's a community effort that people could contribute to. But on top of that, it does alleviate any concerns about you talking about these things openly. Because, whether we like it or not, obviously you and I are on the same page of how important these are. And the majority of people that I interact with are. But there's a few, even very close friends of mine, that are vocally the opposite. They at the end of the day, if you don't own the games, it's piracy. And while I'm still 100% convinced, maybe 99.9, and a bunch of nines after that when it comes to when they're selling good versions of old games on new consoles, these ROM packs do nothing but promote them and get people excited about it. But you know, either way, the bottom line is it's still a gray area, a smoky area, if you will. That
Yeah.
that's now just no one could really argue with you about it because there's nothing.
Yeah.
There is no gray area here. Having a GitHub with a bunch of scripts on it that says if you
Text
find
files. Yeah.
ROMs, yeah, I mean so that's perfect. Now you could continue your work and have other people join and not really have to worry about any of this stuff.
And it's making it permanent, like in the same way that you want to document your work. Like you said, it can all be lost. Like we pass away and our internet bill doesn't get paid, and this stuff's gone, in a day, or overnight. And you could have put thousands and thousands of hours, and all sorts of people could have contributed. But say a forum goes down, and that's just, the information's gone.
Yeah.
And so now all of this work that it's not just me, lots of people put work into these, and now I can describe all of that. And some of these are coming out to be 50 kilobyte text files. I can describe it in a file. As long as that text survives somewhere, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and that is very obviously something that's going to be, you'll last a long time. Just saving text, things like GitHub. Now also when I get the new version of the site up, I could just have like an unlisted page that's just a clone of it, just as a backup of a backup. So we don't have to worry about any of this stuff anymore, even things like the cost of hosting and all that stuff. So that is pretty cool. And there are other projects that are already underway that have been in progress since these consoles first started about making sure to get every game dumped. There's new people working on newer consoles as well, but I think having this, I don't know, automatic list, however, whatever cool name we can think of for it, I do think this is a great idea.
Yeah, it does need a name. I'm calling it right now the EverDrive Packs List Database, which doesn't really roll off the tongue.
No, and you support a bunch of other flash carts that are equally as awesome, if not better in some cases, that aren't EverDrives. So
yeah. And the other thing is, people think, oh, these are like fixes for EverDrives. They're not fixes for EverDrives. They're fixes for real hardware. And a lot of these fixes are going to be necessary. I mean, unless flash cart makers or PCB makers are making individual fixes, especially for unlicensed games, every single unlicensed game would need specific fixes in their BIOS for the flash cart before it would ever work on real hardware. And we'll never get to the point where every single game has a individual fix for it, because they all have that. Lots of them have custom PCBs that some person made for a few years and that's it or something. So these fixes really are going to be important, even if the EverDrives no longer exist, we're 10, 20 years from now. If people want to play something on real hardware, they need the hardware fix version in a lot of cases. Right. So I really think it's important for us. And all of this testing and everything, this is real, work that's going to be part of the historical record of video games one day.
Yeah.
Because it's going to save somebody else thousands of hours down the line having to do it all.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed that you've always included, and it's kind of more of the fad lately, we haven't really talked about it because it's not so exciting to put in videos, but I am over the moon thrilled of how many language translations there have been lately. And, now there's people who really want to experience a game, but, if English isn't your first language, it kind of sucks. It's almost exactly like when we would play games that were translated badly from Japanese to English. So now people have a chance to experience those. Is there, other than romhacking.net where you have to scroll through and kind of figure it out, I guess that's one good place. I do have that one mediocre-ish video showing people how to patch their own ROMs. But other than that, can you think of another place to get these translations? And is this something that your pack is going to be supporting in the future?
Yeah, so I do have, in terms of ROM hacking, I have got Game1213 is my official kind of romhacking.net spy. He's keeping up with absolutely everything that comes out there that's on a system that's supported in the project. So we'll have everything from ROM hacking, translations, hacks, different languages, and all of that will be coming every couple of months or so. And then I just need to roll that into the description, and then it'll be there.
So the new procedure oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. In terms of finding other translations, a lot of that stuff, and this is another big part of the project too, is it's like up on a forum for, a year, 2 years or whatever, and as soon as that person ends their account, or if the attachments no longer work, then those can be lost. So those are really cool. We gather them up from everywhere. So
Yeah.
it's about having a lot of people out there sending stuff in. A lot of people submit things through the forums, and then I'm spying on all of your news updates too, finding out
Awesome.
things.
So for proper procedure for people that find these new patches, whether it's a language translation or like a Game Gear to Master System, would just simply be to take a ROM that you know for a fact works on a ROM cart, hence one of the ones from your packs, and then just go through the easy patching process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be. My preferred patches are BPS, Beat Patcher patches, or ASMs, because those will actually only patch on the game that they're designed for, or the ROM file that they were designed for. So you'll never end up with like a bad patch breaking something.
Interesting.
But you can also just do the IPS patches and then test them afterwards.
Yeah, and I actually do use both, but it just seems that most people use the IPS format.
Yeah, it'll always be around. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the explanation. I mean, I was going to support your project either way, but now that you took the time to explain it, I'm even more excited about it than I was. I guess the only other thing is where to find you, more updates from you coming up. Is it just your YouTube channel for now?
Yeah, I've got my YouTube channel, Smokemonster, and I just started a Twitter account, so I'm going to see how that goes. That's my first venture into social networking in my life, so
it's the one I hate the least out of all of them, so that's a good choice.
Yeah. Well, I saw you're there, Voultar's there, My Life in Gaming's post. I'm like, I'll go there too.
Yeah, might as well.
There. I'll go with the cool kids.
I actually do like the limited characters, because I got really frustrated a bunch of times on Facebook with people posting a 4-page rant about something that made no sense. It really, as much as I'm not as excited in social media about other people, yeah, if you could say it, and it's now 240 characters now, they just made it longer. If you can't say something in that, then it probably, shouldn't be said on social media. So, now, are you still going to be doing your ROM video updates as just as they come in?
Yeah, I'll try to get back on track doing those. I've been really wrapped up in a lot of different things lately, so I haven't really been on those. And I'm going to, in about a month, I'll have a significantly better computer setup here to actually, because I'm really struggling with video editing. I didn't really appreciate how much power and time and everything that takes. So hopefully I'll be able to do better videos. That's my main thing. I want to get the quality under control first, because my first videos, and the ones I sent to you before, they were really, really poorly rendered. So I apologize about that.
No, I mean, it's fine. I think if you were going to do some big fancy video, go as close to My Life in Gaming as you could possibly do it, because those guys are like the bar.
Yeah.
But for things like the news updates, you almost could just put a JPEG up on the screen that says, Smokemonster's November update, and talk over it. Like, it's my opinion, of course, but I just keeping people in the loop of all this stuff. And for the record, for anybody listening, there hasn't been that much ROM news other than like Sonic 3D and all those amazing language translations. So it's nothing's waiting to be revealed here. But when it does, I guess we could expect another video as needed when they come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll keep doing those for sure well into the future. And I've been streaming a lot lately too, which I just like being able to chat with people while you play a game or something, or show off something cool. Yeah. So streaming is something I've really been enjoying too.
Yeah, you're about to enter a whole new world of streaming and social media that way. It's a lot of fun, actually. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, thank you very much. And as suspected, as you can see, the absinthe is now pretty much milky white, so I'm going to go drink the shit out of this.
Nice, Mr. Lautrec.
Now on to the Q&As. Last week, I had talked about which consoles need either immediate cap replacements or at the very least open them up to see if the caps are bad. And I missed a few, and I missed a doozy. The Game Gear. I can't believe I forgot to mention the Game Gear. Almost everyone I've seen had exploded caps, and I've even seen a lot on eBay that people were putting up for parts or not working, where they actually tried to do a cap replacement themselves, ruined the console, and then sold it for that. So definitely check your own Game Gear. Make sure when you're buying others, especially if it's parts are not working, just ask, was this something that you've modded before? Is this, is this a failed mod, or is this just not powering on? But there were a few other consoles that people mentioned. The Turbo Express and the Pioneer Laser Active were some of the top ones. Also, people had mentioned, well, if you're already checking for different things, you might as well check the batteries, which makes total sense. Lots of things like the Saturn, the Dreamcast, Sega CD, of course. The batteries are all going dead in these consoles, and that's usually an easy one. The Sega CD, everything involving the original Sega CD is a pain, but at least the other ones like the Saturn and the Dreamcast are pretty easy. And for the Xboxes, a bunch of people actually commented to let me know that there is one cap specifically that tends to go bad in many models of the Xbox, and that affects the clock, so the system clock whenever the console isn't plugged in. But the one I was specifically mentioning, I'd seen a few where at least a third of the caps had leaked and just really ruined most of the motherboard. Some cases were obviously much more extreme than others, and of course, temperature, humidity, abuse, all that stuff. But I would, at the very least, if you have an Xbox, I would check that one cap for the system time to make sure it doesn't leak out. And supposedly you don't even need to replace it. You could just remove it, and then obviously every time you unplug the Xbox, you lose time, but I don't think that's that big a deal. So I guess add the Xbox to the list and make sure to check at least that one cap, but I would just kind of take a look anyway to make sure. But thanks to everybody for posting the corrections, and I still can't believe I forgot about the Game Gear. Next, Syme posted and requested that I talk about Yakuza Kiwami, a PS4 remake of the PS2 game. And to be honest, I would talk a lot more about these things. I just don't really know about them. Where my gray area in video game history lies is pretty much N64 to just about mid PS2. And because that was really the time in my life where, it's beer and chicks were the most important thing on the planet. And then, then I got corporate job right away. I kind of flip-flopped. I was the guy that, right out of high school just went to tech school and landed a pretty decent job, and then immediately started traveling with my other job. So I was really just all over the place and didn't spend as much time or really have as much interest in video games at that point. And it wasn't until life slowed down a bit until I really jumped back into it. So I've never heard of Yakuza Kiwami before. I know half of you probably PS2 fans just wanted to reach through YouTube and smack me in the face for saying that, but I'm just being honest. So anytime you guys know about these things, if there's really great remakes, things like Wonder Boy: The Dragon's Trap that I often talk about, if there's something that really deserves more merit, then please just send me wherever you can, email, in the comments, whatever, and I'll make sure to definitely mention it. But thanks for bringing it up, Kris, because it is just kind of a big hole in my gaming history. And my life in gaming is, especially Mark, I believe, is a big PS2 fan and was really into that stuff. So, I keep in touch with those guys too, so hopefully, if you're watching, Mark, make sure to send me an instant message or something when you hear about these things so I can keep everybody in the loop. But thanks for posting. Next, Mechanical Paladan asked, when do you think that we can get OSSC support for modern capture devices such as the Elgato HD60 Pro? To be honest, I don't really think many modern capture cards would support the OSSC if it doesn't already. So you have ones like the DataPath Visions that seem to take everything that I throw at it, and it does look great. It's a full RGB color space card. But you might try emailing them, and maybe we could all just kind of get together and figure out what the issue is and be able to explain it so their developers could really see. But it's my guess that it's such a small percentage of people that use the cards would use it for that if it doesn't already work with the OSSC, it probably won't. But hopefully I'm wrong. But I would definitely do the opposite. I wouldn't I wouldn't try to get your capture card to work with the OSSC. I would try to buy one that you know for a fact works with it. So I do love that data path card, and there's one that works with some consoles and not others, the Epiphan card that's external, that's very great as well. But hopefully we could continue to make some progress and maybe get a list together of all the ones that are fully compatible with every console and every mode. A few people had contacted me to add a little bit more clarity to the Darksoft CPS2 kit submissions on Twin Galaxies thing. It's still a bit confusing for me, but I really appreciate Art taking the time last week to explain some of it, especially because I literally pulled him away from the Too Furious tournament to do this. But Beast posted to let everybody know that there's the new update for the Darksoft kits allows people to play the original encrypted ROMs in their fullest form on the multi. So it's essentially 100% being like playing the original, which is pretty cool. And also, Evan, the person who actually got his submission accepted by Twin Galaxies, posted a lot of great info. I'm just going to try to give the bullet points here, and I'll post links in the description. But the ROM set that he was using was the Avalanche ROMs. And if you're going to mod your board for battery-free use, those are the ones that you should be using, because other ROM sets might not be accepted with Twin Galaxies. Now, I'm not sure if that's a permanent thing, if that's, you know, there's always drama or stuff with this arcade things, and it's always been that way, even if you watch that documentary where, you know, the King of Kong or something. So I guess at the moment, regardless of the reasons why, Avalanche are the ones that you need to use. Also, there's a few other points he wanted to make with that Darksoft firmware update. With the 4-wire mod, the multi writes the original factory encryption key on boot up. I think that's what Beast was talking about. No battery required, uses the original game code. He's been testing it and said no problems at all. And he said the way he would set it up if you guys want to submit to Twin Galaxies is show the system booting, show all gameplay from start to finish, show the physical dip switches, show the game PCB, and show the settings in the service menu, which makes sense. I mean, I think that's kind of standard for these things. And he said he's got a submission in for a CPS1 game that's a good example of what to do. So links to all this stuff are down below. And thanks so much to Evan and Beast for posting, and last week for Art for helping out, because as much as I love the arcade stuff, I'm by no means an expert in the little details like this, but I'm trying to learn, and I'll get there eventually. Well, that's pretty much it for this week. Before I go, I definitely wanted to remind everybody about the interview I did with John Linneman from Digital Foundry. After the interview, I went back and watched some more of his DF Retro stuff and had even more of an appreciation for it. The Daytona video was the one that specifically just really hooked me, because that's one of my favorite games. It's probably one of my favorite racing games too, and I just... to be able to see how he broke it down and explained the versions and did it in a technical way but that anybody could understand, I mean, I'm absolutely hooked. So please check out the interview with him. We had a lot of fun doing it. And also, I think this week is going to be the first re-release, so I'm going to be taking some of the interviews, some of my favorites at least, that were included in the weekly roundup, and to actually put them up as separate interviews. So, you know, if you haven't seen them, now's a great chance to experience them. They'll be audio and video. And if you've already seen them, maybe click them up and, you know, and let them play for a minute just to get the view count, because I certainly don't want people who took the time to do these great interviews to see a repost with like 10 views on it. I don't want to like accidentally insult somebody by doing that. So, yeah, show some love to the interviewees, if you will. But as always, thanks to you guys for everything. Thanks to the Patreons. Next week will be the Patreon giveaway. I got a pretty cool one for you, and the only hint is it has to do with some of the stuff we've been talking about lately. And no, it's not an RGB modded TV. I wouldn't even know how to ship that. But hopefully it is still, well, hopefully you guys think it's still cool. And as always, any comments or criticism, please post down below, and I'll see you guys next time.